Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Generation S podcast. This is NHL episode 3, and today I'm by myself, and we're going to be talking about week 2 so far, and the recap. Kind of doing the same thing as last week when I was with Newman. Kind of just talking about surprising teams so far through week 1 and week 2, and kind of just miscellaneous things I kind of want to talk about. So to begin, I want to talk about the standings first because there's some surprises. As we talked about at the beginning of the podcast last time, kind of surprising teams and surprising, whatever else. So I kind of just want to look at, division standings. All you won't be able to see it, but I'm kind of just looking at it right now. In the Atlantic, if you would have had, Buffalo and Detroit in the top 3, you'd be called insane at the beginning of the year. And, you have Tampa Bay, Boston, and Montreal all at the bottom, which we'll get into later. But yeah, Buffalo being 3-0, Detroit being 2-1-1, and then kind of other surprises. Columbus is 3-1. That's really good. And that's basically like all the surprises. Again, Seattle being 1-3-1, 5 games in, not. I find that kind of surprising, but not really. But yeah, it's kind of surprising teams all coming from the Eastern Conference. In the Atlantic Division, again, Florida's number 1. Kind of expected that. They're a really good team this year, being 4-0 so far. I think it's their best start, maybe in franchise history. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, but it's one of their better starts in franchise history. And then, like I said, you have Buffalo at number 2. Undefeated at 3-0, and then you have Detroit right behind them at 2-1-1, and you could say it's not really a surprise because Buffalo is Buffalo. They're always going to be good in the October, and for some reason that's the case. And then Detroit, again, they're up and coming. I expect them to be good. I've brought it up, I think, the last 2 episodes. I expect them to be good. Within a few years, so them being 2-1-1, not super surprising, but again, at the beginning of the year, you won't have a Florida, Buffalo, Detroit in the top 3 of the Atlantic Division, so I find that kind of surprising. Excuse me. I kind of just looking at other teams, something that surprises me, and again, it's still early season, you can't really say anything about it. Yeah, so, again, not surprising is the Edmonton Oilers at 4-0 so far. McDavid's kind of carrying their team. He's got 11 points so far, 6 goals and 5 assists. And then you have, following him on the Oilers, is Leon Draisaitl with 8 points. And he's got 6 assists and 2 goals. And then you have Jesse Puljujarvi, who's got 7 points. So, again, McDavid, 3 points above the next person, which is Draisaitl, of course. But then again, you're getting that output that you need, that Edmonton needs. They can't just rely on McDavid and Draisaitl. They need that output from the other forwards, the defensemen to pass. And Mike Smith has been their backstop really good for the first 2 games. He struggled in the third game he started, and then Koskinen has proved worthy so far. While Mike Smith heals up. So, again, they're 4-0. Again, not really surprising, but, that's good to see because Edmonton has been struggling. And, yeah. So, kind of looking over this, San Jose is kind of shocking 3-0. Again, still early in the season, probably change here shortly. And then you have kind of the disappointing teams I want to talk about. But you can't really say disappointing because, one, again, early in the season, I'm going to stress that a lot. It's early in the season, and they've been battling injuries. It's like the first one I talk about is Colorado. They're 1-3 through 4 games right now. And for the first 2, they were missing McKinnon. And then they're missing Landeskog because of a suspension. So, again, like we talked about on the last episode, when Rantanen is missing his other 2 line mates that he's used to playing with, they're going to struggle. Now, that being said, I believe McKinnon and Landeskog are both back now. and they lost 2 games with them. I think I saw that McKinnon in his first game back again, COVID protocol, he was asymptomatic and he had the vaccine, so that's good. But he was a -5. That is not acceptable. Again, it's his first game back, but you're kind of just surprised that McKinnon had that output, or the lack thereof, of just being -5, not scoring and then not back checking as much as he should. I don't know. But yeah, being a -5 in the first game back, not a good look. Another surprise on the other end is Vegas. They are 1-2 through 3 games. Again, they're missing, some key players. And one of the, I think, besides the Toronto-New York Rangers overtime, I think the greatest game so far of the season was Wednesday night. It was the Blues versus Vegas. And if you have watched any hockey at all or not, that was a game you wanted to watch. Again, so I was talking about Vegas being 1-2 so far, but they were missing their top players, or some of them. I believe Alex Tuch is missing, and then you have Max Pacioretty and Mark Stone both missing. I believe they're their highest point scorers for Vegas. So if you want to look here, Blues had 38 shots versus Golden Knights 43. That's like 2 games worth, in my opinion. And watching the game, because obviously Blues fan, I was gonna watch the game. It was back and forth like the whole game, and it was impressive in my opinion. But the Blues' biggest struggle, in my opinion, was they weren't playing a full 60. And in my opinion, on Wednesday night, they had played a full 60 against a damn good Kitcho. A really good Golden Knights team. Again, missing Max Pacioretty, Mark Stone, Alex Tuch. But still, if you look at this stat, I mean, 2 penalties for the Blues, 3 penalties for the Golden Knights. Look at the hits. We massively out-hit the Golden Knights, 31-13. And then just overall, we were winning in the face-off circle. But with the way the game transpired, I want to say, if it brought it up, which I don't think it does, I want to look at the time of possession. Because in my opinion, and I know at least the first period, but we were like in Vegas' zone for like 15 minutes of a period. And there's only 20 minutes if you haven't watched hockey. There's only 20 minutes in a period. And, in the first period, as you see, William Carlson scored at 8:17. I think the shots were like 12-4 in the favor of the Blues. And, of course, in those final 8 minutes, let's just say final 8 minutes, I think the final shot totals at the end of the first period was 17 for the Golden Knights and 16 for the Blues. That's insane. And for me, that's something, that's how I enjoy hockey, is... Yeah, I enjoy those high scoring, 7-4, or those blood 6-0. I've been a part of those. But the games like this one, where it was 3-1. There's one empty net, but the fact that it was 1-1 heading into the third period, and both teams were just going at it, it was, again, in my opinion, one of the best games to watch of the year so far. Again, we're only 2 weeks in. That'll obviously change, but the fast pace of the game, that kind of, it does make the Blues a lot scarier than I think a lot of people thought they were going to be. And saying that, they're still not as scary as they should be, because their defense, in my opinion, awful. The only reason why that game was 3-1 on Wednesday was because of Jordan Binnington. He's been on fire. 42 out of 43 saves. That's insane. If you're making those types of saves, one, your defense isn't doing anything, and 2, you have a damn good goalie Kitcho behind you, and you know that that you can go on the attack because you have someone trustworthy behind you, but that doesn't allow, I want to look up the stat, but if I can recollect, I think there was at least 3 2-on-1s or 2-on-0s against the Blues. And you can't have that happen In fact, the one goal for Vegas, the goal was a 2-on-1, and Binnington made the first save, and then the rebound was there because there's no defense to be there. And you can't really, Binnington probably should have gotten a shutout. He probably, won't because he gets those goals against like that. But, if you look at that, you really need to decide that, hey, maybe you need defense. And that's what is holding back the Blues from being a powerhouse, in my opinion. Their forward depth is so good now that we're struggling now because, one, Brandon Saad is in the COVID protocol, and two, Buchnevich will be serving his second game of his 2-game suspension on Saturday against the Kings, which probably already happened when this uploads, so hopefully they're 4-0 when this goes live. But but they have those pieces where, you have the Klim Kostin, you have the Jake Neighbors, you have the James Neal, you have Kyle Clifford, you have Mackenzie McEachern, and then once he comes back, Oscar Sundqvist, who's going to filter into that, bottom six. And you just look at this and they're like, what is going on? Because their depth, which was struggling in the 2010s and, picked up, that's why we won 2019, was because of our depth. And ever since then, our depth has been insane. So I think on forwards we're fine, and which is funny because apparently we've been linked to Jack Eichel again, just recently. So I'm kind of excited to see how that pans out, but I don't know. But you just need to focus on the defense, who, in my opinion, is really lacking, and we need to figure out ways to defend better, obviously. But yeah, Jordan Binnington, kind of just talking about the Blues right now. Jordan Binnington on fire, looking like his 2019 self. Vladimir Tarasenko, easily the best game of the season, probably the best game he's had in a while because of his shoulder injuries. He was flying up and down the ice. I think he had like 7 shots. It was only a matter of time before he scored. And, when he scored, it was a 3-0 because Alex Pietrangelo, shout out. Thank you for thinking you're still playing on the Blues. Shout out. He passed right to one of our players who left it wide open. Going back on the surprising teams again, we talked about Vegas. But I also want to talk about Montreal, which, to the happiness of one of my buddies, they are currently 0-5, worst start in franchise history, I think. And, I kind of want to talk about this a little bit, but I kind of just want to talk about the team so far. It is insane. Looking at their stats, they've scored 4 goals. 4 goals. You know how many players? I want to look right now, actually. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 7 players in the league that have scored more goals than Montreal has combined. McDavid, of course. You have Anze Kopitar, Kyle Connor, Tyler Bertuzzi, Alex Ovechkin. McDavid has 6. Kopitar, Connor, and Bertuzzi all have 5. And then you have Alex Ovechkin, Andrei Svechnikov, and Sam Bennett, who have all scored 4. Again, kind of insane how they've only scored 4 goals and given up 19. Again, they're missing Shea Weber. He probably won't be playing again. Jake Allen, coming from a Blues fan who had Jake Allen is not fit to be a starter. And I say that because I know how good he is. And you're probably thinking like, well, if he's bad, then why are you saying he's good? Why is he struggling in starting? It's because he's not capable of holding that workload that a starter has. Again, it's only been 4 games, but you've given up 19 goals. Again, can't be all put on Jake Allen. If you have a lack of a defense, your forwards aren't scoring. You can't do everything, unless you're Jordan Binnington, apparently. But we talked about that. But yeah, missing Carey Price, missing Shea Weber. That's hurting them, and that again, the tweets are saying, Montreal again made the Cup final last year, but arguably they were the weakest team to ever make the Cup final in recent history. So of course they're going to start out bad. And, you're kind of looking for that rebound, but at this point I don't see, if you're a Montreal Canadiens fan, where that rebound will be, because I haven't watched most of their games yet, but it's kind of a shame that they're 0-5 after coming off a Cup final run. So, going off of that, talking about Montreal. I kind of just want to talk about something that happened yesterday for me. Depending on when this is uploaded, I believe this will be uploaded on Monday, if not Tuesday. So what happened on Thursday night, October 21st, the Canadiens welcomed Carolina Hurricanes back into Canada. I believe it was, yeah. Anyways, let's go back a few years to where Montreal had offer sheeted Sebastian Aho from the Carolina Hurricanes, and Carolina, this is kind of a small part of the context, Carolina offer sheeted back, or matched the offer sheet that the Canadiens gave Aho, so Aho stayed, and it was kind of a little thing like, Carolina was saying, hey, like, don't offer sheet our players or whatever, and then just this past offseason, Carolina offer sheeted Jesperi Kotkaniemi for $6.1 million, and it was kind of this little feud because, again, the rivalry was small, but Carolina kind of just blew it out of proportion, which is making the game fun. But they oversheeted Kotkaniemi for $6.1 million, kind of an overpay, but the signing bonus that he was given was $20. And it sounds random, but Sebastian Aho's number is 20. So not only are, they're taking a good player away from the Canadiens, they're rubbing in their face that they have Kotkaniemi now and Sebastian Aho. And, going back to those two, Aho is pick number 2, I think, in the 2015 draft. 2016 draft. Aho was selected, my goodness. Aho was selected by Carolina in the second round, and then Kotkaniemi was selected, I think, the pick after by the Canadiens. Anyways, so now Carolina has them both, and the thing I want to talk about here is, the hilarious rivalry between Carolina and Montreal at this point, but kind of, I am ashamed and embarrassed at how the Canadiens fans treated Kotkaniemi when he comes back. They were screaming, F you, and, they were chanting 6.1, which is, the amount of money he gets. And I don't understand why Montreal Canadiens fans do that. In my opinion, Kotkaniemi, he served his time there, and, he was one of the pieces that led you to a cup final for the first time in forever. And then he comes back because I want to ask you guys, if you were offered $6.1 million to go somewhere else, why wouldn't you take it? Unless, family or, things are happening. But why wouldn't you take $6.1 million to go somewhere doing something that you love? I'm taking that in a heartbeat. So the fact that the Canadiens fans were kind of, trashing Kotkaniemi during his game back, and good for Kotkaniemi, he scored his first goal for the Carolina Hurricanes at Montreal. But yeah, I'm kind of ashamed about Canadiens fans because, I don't know, there's no reason why you should do that as a fan anywhere, but, stop being salty. It's a game. Talking about some lighter news now, I kind of want to talk about this just because I find it funny, but, if you're an NHL fan, you know that over the summer, the NHL signed an exclusive deal with ESPN to have ESPN do their games, and Turner Sports, which has TNT and I believe TBS, to do their sports. So on Wednesday night, just like NBC the last few years, it was Wednesday Night Hockey on NBCSN. Now it's Wednesday Night Hockey on TNT. And in my opinion, going to TNT was probably the best move that NHL has made in a while. I kind of just want to talk about the personality that has come from the TNT crew and compare it to NBC, which is funny that I think it's better, and there's a lot of reasons why. But, TNT hired a lot of people from NBC. Again, when you're looking for a job, you're going to take everything, and you want people who have experience doing the post games and the intermissions and the pre games. But having Wayne Gretzky, having Paul Bissonnette, having, and then Liam McHugh and Anson Carter, easily the best, I don't know, I guess you want to call it best table to have, because this past Wednesday, again, you're probably seeing this on Monday or Tuesday of last week of October, but last Wednesday, there was just so much character. And, when there's intermissions, you usually, we'll watch another program for 18 minutes or just look at your phone. But it was kind of funny because I was sitting here, I didn't want to look at my phone because I didn't know what was going to happen. You had, Wayne Gretzky, flaming Paul Bissonnette. And then you had, both Liam McHugh and Anson Carter kind of just, firing that up and firing Wayne Gretzky up. And having someone as Wayne Gretzky on the table with his knowledge and how much he's played hockey, best move they've made. And then just loosening Wayne Gretzky up to be comfortable on TV and then allowing him to make those jabs at Paul Bissonnette. That, in my opinion, gives hockey so much character. And, having those former players go at each other, in a joking, fun way, obviously they're all good friends, unless, we don't know anything. But again, having those former players just go after each other, I think that adds character to hockey, and it makes the intermission so much more entertaining. Because they talk about the games that are happening, get you those stats, and then they just have fun. I no offense to, again, the crew at TNT is almost the same as it was at NBC, and no offense to NBC, but there was no character, in my opinion. They would preview or recap a game, say, blah, blah, blah did this, blah, blah, did that, here's what team needs to do, here's what team, has to look forward to, and then go to commercial. That, it was kind of bland and dry, and it was just not entertaining, and that's when you wanted to go watch something for 18 minutes, or look at your phone for 18 minutes. But with TNT, like I said, you don't want to look at your phone. You don't want to go to another program, because what's going to happen? Is Wayne Gretzky going to flame someone? Is someone going to flame Wayne Gretzky for being who he is? That, in my opinion, adds so much character to the game of hockey and exposure to the NHL that I think is a great move for the NHL, and they're adding fan interaction with that. Every time they cut back to the desk, they showcase a tweet from one of the fans just watching it, and I don't know, I find that amazing, and I think this is probably one of the better, one, PR moves for the NHL, and two, just better for the fans. And I'm really excited to see how this deal works out. Again, we're only 2 weeks in, but so far watching hockey on TNT, and I haven't gotten to watch on ESPN yet, so I don't know what's going on there, but getting to watch hockey on TNT has added so much character to the game, and I'm really excited to see how that goes from here on out. Okay, so transferring now from NHL talk to fantasy hockey talk, kind of looking at this past week so far. So last week for me, I beat John's team, I wouldn't say pretty handily, but by 4 points. Again, kind of made a comeback, as we talked about last Sunday, and kind of just want to, come on now. Let's just, what am I doing here? I got this, come on, give me a second, there we go, scoreboard. Again, kind of just looking at last week, we kind of recapped it a little bit with me and Nick, but again, I won by 4, and then you have Ben winning by 11 here against one of my friends from back home. You have Nick, who won pretty handily against Ben, and then you have Luke Watts winning pretty handily against one of my buddies back home. If you kind of just look at the top 3, for me, Connor McDavid, what a guy. And then you have Mike Smith, again, as much as I want to talk about not drafting people from the same team, again, it's working out for the Oilers so far. And then Chris Kreider, again, kind of a reliable center for the Rangers. As we look at the Leafs, he had Drew Doughty. Again, Los Angeles had a really good week last week, and so far. So Drew Doughty getting those points. So you have Nylander and Hedman, again, those players you just expect to do good. Looking at this, Ovechkin kind of leading the pack for Columbus there, and then followed by Jack Campbell and JT Miller. Again, being a goalie will get you those amount of points, and then JT Miller, again, having a good week for Vancouver, even though they're struggling so far. And then as we look at family, Dom Toretto, Steven Stamkos, and Nikita Kucherov, again, carrying the weight load of his team. Tampa Bay kind of struggling so far, but they're bouncing back, getting their feet under them. So I expect that duo to be tough Looking at Nick's team, Svechnikov, kind of a low-scoring week for him compared to what we've seen so far out of the others. His leading scorer was only Svechnikov at 16.1, followed by Cam Talbot and then Teuvo Teravainen. But Big Time Brush, who really isn't starting his roster again, things happen, busy. But his leading scorer was only Freddie Anderson, and then Mika Zibanejad, and then Tomas Hertl. So again, making sure you start your lineups kind of important. As we look at the last game with Luke, Anze Kopitar, insane week for him. 5 goals really quickly. That's insane. And then Oliver Borkstrand, who's kind of carrying Columbus right now. I know he scored another goal last night, Thursday night. And then Brandon Tanev, Seattle struggling, but Brandon Tanev still scoring that goal. While we have Canadian Sea Turtles, Patrick Kane, Leon Draisaitl, again, 2 players you expect to have that many points throughout a week. And then Mikhail Sergev, again, one of those players that you expect to get those points for your team. As we look at this week so far, again, we are on Friday. Connor McDavid already has 21 points for me, followed by Sebastian Aho, shout out, and then Kirill Kaprizov. Again, those are my top 3 forwards, so you expect them to have the top 3 spots, besides the goalies, who, again, Mike Smith is injured, and I picked up Sergei Bobrovsky last night before his win and then, against Colorado, and then, Mike Smith being injured and Grubauer struggling with the Seattle Kraken, so kind of a shame there. But looking at my opponent, Ben, if you look, Tom Wilson and Alex Ovechkin leading the charge with Patrick Laine right in the middle. Kind of expected. Capitals are doing really good. Again, they beat the Avalanche, and then yesterday they beat the Devils, I think, this week. So, after Ovechkin had such a solid week last week, it seems like the production is kind of spread out, which again is good for a team like Washington. I'm looking at the other matchups, Dom Toretto with Jordan Kyrou and Jordan Binnington, and I cannot say enough about those 2 players right now, just because I'm a Blues fan, and how good they are. Jordan Kyrou is going to be such a legendary player, and Jordan Binnington getting back to his 2019 self, so good. And then he has Evgeny Kuznetsov, who is finally returned and seems to be doing well. And for Lincoln Avenue Leafs, who, by the way, Don Toretto is still losing by 6. Again, we have the weekend coming up, so who knows what will happen. But for the Leafs, again, losing a heartbreaker last week against me, you have Ryan Nugent-Hopkins popping off. Again, the Oilers are getting that production from everyone right now, which is good to see if you're an Oilers fan, because that was something that you were kind of missing the last few years. So hopefully, again, we're only 4 games in for the Oilers, and we're still 6 months out of the playoffs, but you hope that somehow continues throughout the regular season into the playoffs, because that's what that team was missing, and that's why they got swept by the Jets last year. So hopefully that continues. But yeah, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, again, he's at 18 points, 3 points behind my guy, Connor McDavid, so... looking at Jacob Markstrom and Johnny Gaudreau, 2 Calgary Flames players. I haven't really paid attention to Calgary so far, but, goalie always getting you at least those 2 wins, it looks like, and then Johnny Gaudreau kind of just filling in right there. Looks like, with how low his top 3 players are, it looks like he's getting production from everyone on his team, which is always good to see. Looking now at the West Division, you have Canadian Sea Turtles, who is led by Kyle Connor, Shesterkin, and Draisaitl. Again, Kyle Connor, Winnipeg Jets have kind of been struggling, which is kind of insane to think about. But again, still early in the season. Hopefully they bounce back, because the Jets are a good team. But with Hellebuck not playing as well as he was, the last few years, is kind of bad. Because it highlights all the flaws that, Winnipeg does have. Looking at Igor Shesterkin, again, New York Rangers doing well. And Lafreniere seems to be coming into his own after being the first overall pick last year. So that's always good to see. Same with Jack Hughes for the Devils, who, just dislocated his shoulder. Hopefully he's fine. But seeing those first overall picks kind of blossom to these legendary players, you always love to see that. And then, of course, Leon Draisaitl, who's actually, behind Nugent-Hopkins and McDavid for points. But, again, someone who's always reliable for your team, fantasy team, and again, he's already got 111 points. That means he's getting more points besides these 40 from these 3 players. Looking at the Nick's team. Eric Carlson kind of leading his team. That's kind of insane to think about because Carlson has had those problems where you just he's an okay defenseman, I guess you could say. But him leading the team there is kind of insane. Again, San Jose's off to a 3-0 start. That's going to happen. Mikko Rantanen, again, when you don't have your top two line mates with you, you're going to struggle. And that's exactly what's happening. He's only got 8.5 points this week. And then followed by, Sean Courtier. Again, Philadelphia Flyers are kind of in the middle right now. So hopefully, I'm excited to see how he does there. But again, huge hill to climb. Again, still a week and anything can happen. And then finally, Luke's team and Ben's team. Again, Ben is struggling by not starting his players. I've looked at the matchups a little bit on my phone. When his two top scorers are his goalies, not great in my opinion. But hey, it happens. And then, followed by Zibanejad again behind, Shesterkin and Kreider somehow, some way. I don't know. I kind of just lost my train of thought. For Brush. And then for Luke, Zach Hyman finally coming to his own as an Edmonton Oiler his first year. Glad to see that with the new scene he hasn't lost his potential yet. Again, playing with the McDavids and the Draisaitl's and the Nugent Hopkins and the Puljujarvis, he's going to score points. And then Oliver Bjorkstrand, again, having a solid week so far. Again, solid weekend, but Columbus seems to be doing well with him leading the charge. And then Connor Garland, new team in Vancouver. Again, Vancouver somewhat doing well, so that'll do it. So that's a wrap on Fantasy Hockey and NHL episode number 3. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, how your fantasy hockey team is doing, any surprises that you've seen so far, and your thoughts on the TNT, NHL and TNT, because, again, I'm enjoying it a lot with the new character. So leave a comment about that. Subscribe if you want more sports podcasts. Again, we do MLB, NFL, NBA, and NHL, of course. And please share this with your friends. Any and all support is appreciated. We do appreciate you guys tuning in every day we upload. Please share with your friends. Again, any and all support is appreciated. But that'll do it for NHL Episode 3. Again, my name is Oscar Hernandez, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Peace.